right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And so good to see you all. Welcome back for the second year, episode 2 of the biennium. I am excited to get started and get rolling on topics. There's a lot of things that I would love to get through this session, and I'm sure there are things that are on your radar that you would love to get through as well. So we are waiting for some photocopies. And so while we are doing that, I'd love to just start with what you all are thinking. What are you hoping for? What would be your priorities coming after this year? And we can go in any order. I'm happy to start or end.
Okay,
yeah, go for it.
I think the thing that I'd like us to spend time on is the health of our lakes. Not so much, that it doesn't matter, that's a lot, but Champlain and Milk Bay, but like all of our in-state, all our smaller lakes, and just really focusing on what's actually happening with the health of our lakes, which direction we're going, because I think it's going in the wrong direction. And one of the things that we should be thinking about to try to improve the situation, because our lakes, they're all over the place, are just gems for Vermont, and I'm getting very concerned about the health of the ecosystems and the lakes, and that matters to every part.
Yeah.
I think so. I got more, I'm interested in that. This committee.
Super. If we can go around.
I think that is a priority for me as well. As Seth said, I'm really, I think, interested in starting to fully understand what any federal implications of any of the legislation coming out of Washington means for any of the programs that we have jurisdiction over. So.
Great, thank you. And just as an FYI, we were hoping to have an update on exactly that tomorrow, but it turns out that people were not available. So I'm anticipating that we may cover some of that next week. That's the hope.
That's good.
Okay.
That's great. I definitely want to hear that update. So I agree with Senator Beck. And yes, Senator Baumgart's the lakes I started having that conversation last year. So picking that up again and talking about it would be great. I know that there are several bills about energy policy that I'm really interested in. How can we make energy and utilities more cost effective for Vermonters while also reducing carbon emissions? So just trying to really dig into some creative ideas on how we can do that, whether it's balcony solar or improved energy navigation or whatever it is. Just making it easier for Vermonters to afford clean energy, I think would be a great thing for us to recommend.
Great.
So I've been working on some lakes in my district, the Bathroom Association and Conservation Fund, things that they want to do there as is as far as the health of the lake, but also as it applies to economic development of the area. So I actually got some emails from people about Star Lake that are concerned that the lake, this beautiful lake in East Wallingford, that's basically becoming a marsh, and nobody can do anything there because of some species of lily. So I'm concerned about that. We don't want to do any harm, but we also want to listen to the constituents. And speaking of listening to constituents, the biggest thing I've heard this summer from people is the 3-acre rule and how that's financially affecting everybody. Some things that we can possibly do. I've got a bill in that's maybe a little bit out there, but it's at least starts the conversation. So
great. Super, thank you. Wow, it's kind of awesome that lakes is on everyone's mind, or it came up for everybody, and so that is helpful for me. to prioritize that, including all the other things that were mentioned. I would also add, I'm very interested in what we can do about housing. I firmly believe that we do not need to compromise environmental protections in order to build housing. I think there are things that we can do to make our housing cheaper and to build, faster to build. And so I'm looking for like, what are those things? And so we're hoping to take up a bill about that. And there's, I guess I would say more generally than lakes, I'm interested in water quality issues. We do want to revisit and get that salt bill through, that's what needs to be done with that. And then some solid waste issues around plastic pollution and I think there's going to be a tire EPR bill that may come to us from the House. I think there's some solid waste issues that are going to be really interesting this session. Yeah, as much as we can also be working on energy stuff, I'm interested in that as well. I'm particularly interested also in the financing of that. And so there's a bill that came to us that was a little bit of a surprise about, it's a study on green banks. I thought it was going to go to finance, but it did not go to finance, it came here. So we might talk about that as well. So, okay, thank you, everybody, for sharing. And as your priorities either shift or change or things come up, please let me know. Would love to be getting through as much as we can this session. And to that end, I did schedule us to talk about portable solar today, or also known as balcony solar, also known as plug-in solar. Now we do have the legislative council with us to walk through this. I think we're waiting on some copies right now, but one possibility, because it is posted.
Yeah.
So it is available to the public. Oh my goodness, is this it? Okay, amazing.
It's not on the website yet, but whatever.
Legislature.
Yeah.
Then,
So if you look up S202, you can see it on the legislature. I was fighting until I can get it up.
okay. So just by way of introducing this briefly, this idea came to my attention over the summer, and it's or I should say it's inspired by a bill that was passed in Utah. It had bipartisan support there. It was unanimously approved. So that to me seemed like a good sign. And so our version is based off of Utah's, and it's very similar, though it definitely has some distinct aspects of it. The idea, just to say it out loud, or to explain it a little bit, in Europe, it's very common to have a portable solar device or balcony solar device where you can go to your local department store, buy one of these, and it has a baked-in inverter and a plug. So you can just bring it home, take it out of the box, and plug it right into your wall. This is technically legal in Vermont, though in order to do that, you would need to have an interconnection agreement with your distribution utility. And the goal here is to make this as simple and easy as possible for the customer. People do not want to have to go through interconnection agreements with their distribution utility. But I think that there are some things that the distribution utilities might want to have, but we'll let them speak for themselves on that. And we went through multiple iterations of this bill, and I don't want to get too deep into it. There's more to be said, but as a way to allow people who don't have the authority to put solar on their roof, who don't have, maybe they're renters, maybe they have a condo. This is something a device they could just put out on their balcony, out in a yard, and start generating electricity and lowering their electric bills right away. So I will turn it over to Ledge Council to walk us through this.
Thanks. Ellen J. Kowski, Office of Legislative Counsel. I'm here on S 202, an act relating to portable solar energy generation devices. This is a pretty short bill. And I think Senator Watson summed it up pretty neatly. It's a pretty short, narrow bill. There is some electrical engineering jargon in here that you may want to talk to an actual expert about, not me. I'm going to tell you what a receptacle is because I had to learn what that was. And so I'm not an expert in the very technical aspect on how some of these things work, and you might want to hear about them from someone else. But to start, on page 1, section 1, 30 VSA 201 is amended to read. This is the definition section of chapter 5 of the PUC's statutes. So definition, a new definition is being added. Number 9, portable solar energy generation device means a movable photovoltaic generation device that has a maximum power output to the electric grid of not more than 1200 watts. So I'm going to stop right there first. This is not the same way that other solar devices are described in other statutes, but there's particular issue around these. This is talking about the amount of power that these portable panels are putting back onto the grid. So you're capping here not more than 1200 watts from this device coming back to the grid. And so you want to hear more about what that means. And this the size limitation being 1200 watts is fairly small. Most of the time when we're talking about panels in these builds, solar panels in these builds, we're talking about kilowatts, which is this next scale up. So 1.2 kilowatts and under.
Yes, go ahead.
So is this the direct current that needs to be converted to AC to inverter?
Already with an electrical question I can answer, I don't know.
Okay, so does it turn the meter backwards? How?
I look forward to hearing the answer to that.
I can tell you what the intent is.
Yeah.
The intent is that it is 1200 watts AC. And that if it is putting electricity back on the grid, that it could theoretically be. That is my understanding, willing to be wrong. That's the intent.
There's so much of technical language in this bill that I can't fully describe to you, so I'm sorry, but I'm sure you'll hear more about that.
Yes.
Now on to page 2. So still the definition of what these devices are. It's a device that is designed to be connected to a building's electrical system via an electrical cord plugged into a receptacle. So a receptacle is the slots that are put onto an electrical outlet so that a plug can be inserted. So an outlet is intended to primarily offset part of the customer's electricity consumption, so it's for the customer's own use. Includes a feature that prevents the system from energizing the building's electrical system during a power outage. This is a safety measure to prevent shock. Is certified by underwriter laboratories or an equivalent nationally recognized testing laboratory for use in the United States. And so this is common on all of the electric products that you use. There's the UL symbol denoting that it has been certified by underwriter's laboratory. And is connected to a building that is connected to the electric grid. So this definition that you have in this bill is very similar to the language in the Utah bill. In section 2 is creating a new section in this chapter. Section 256, portable solar energy generation devices. And so I'm on page 2, line 12. The installation of a portable solar energy generation device shall not be required to comply with the requirements of section 248 of this chapter, or be required to obtain an interconnection agreement with an electric distribution company. And so, as Senator Watson already said, the construction of electric generation facilities broadly have to go through the 248 certificate of public good process. However, for own consumption off the grid, you may not need to go through the 248 process. But you if you were connecting to the grid, you would need an interconnection agreement, which is between the customer and their electric distribution utility. So this is exempting these devices from a 248 CPG and needing to communicate, get an interconnection agreement with the utility. Subsection B, on or before September 10th, 2026, the Public Utility Commission, in consultation with the Division of Fire Safety and the electric distribution companies, shall develop a simple notification form for customers who install portable solar energy devices, which shall at a minimum include name of customer and contact information, address of installment, the customer's electric utility and meter number. The form shall be available in an online version on the page 3 and a printable version. An electric distribution company may require customers to submit the notification form to the company after installation of the device. And subsection C, an electric distribution company shall not require a customer using a portable solar energy generation device to obtain the company's approval before installing or using the device, pay any fee or charge related to the device, or install any additional controls or equipment beyond what is integrated into the device. A portable solar energy generation device shall not be eligible for net metering. And finally, a portable solar energy device in a public building, as defined in 20 VSA section 2730, shall be used in a manner that complies with all applicable requirements of the most recent fire and building safety code adopted by the Division of Fire Safety. So, public buildings are not single family residential units. They traditionally are buildings that are open to the public. The definition is quite long, but if you're in a single family residence, that's not necessarily a public building unless it is being rented. So if you're in a public building, you need to comply with the fire code, and it is basic things like do not block an egress with the panels, make sure the cords are secured and not a tripping hazard in an egress. So things like that. And then finally, section 3, the effective date is July 1, 2026.
Thank you. Yes, and then I have another question. Actually, can we, before we go on, if we can, one of the things that we talked about in the development of this bill, was this question about whether or not a landlord could prevent somebody from putting one of these up.
Yes.
Would you mind speaking to that? And that's not here.
Sure.
And one of the versions of the drafts did have something that addressed that, but if that's okay.
Sure. Apologies, because I don't think I have the site off the top of my head, but in Title 24, in Chapter 117, there are protections for people to towns cannot make it difficult in their bylaws to install renewable energy generation devices. HOAs have a similar provision, and so I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to answer.
I apologize,
But what I can tell you is, there is some language that establishes protections for the construction and installation of renewable energy devices at people's house broadly. The language of that does say onto a building structure. And so you may actually want to consider if these things, if you want to potentially extend that. If, for example, they're going to be hung on fences or so yes, I think there are some protections in other areas of statutes that already apply to solar panels, other types of solar panels. But given that as I have learned, how these panels work and where they go, you may want to broaden it slightly, and I would be prepared next time to use, yeah.
Perfect, sounds great. Thank you. I just want to make sure that I talk about that. Snre.
Yeah, my question was kind of along the same lines, just the term customer and what that specifically means if you're in the context of a renter who may not be the direct customer or a student living in a dorm or a group house of some kind. Who may not be the direct customer, how that might work, and would those people be allowed to have them?
I haven't thought about that. I think. So the way it is. Drafted right now, it has to be for personal use. And then the only other requirement is that potentially after someone has chosen to use this, the electric company can ask for notification. So if customer is too narrow. I think you could potentially go with another word. I kind of thought about. People who have access to the building that aren't related to, you know.
Yeah, I mean, renters are often, in some cases, landlords pay the electricity, but then put it on their rent. Or are the landlord is the customer, but the tenants are paying for the electricity, so. The tenants would have potentially a incentive to want to use the balcony solar units. And then in the case of college students, I know they don't necessarily pay the utility bills directly, but I know that there are students in my district in particular who are interested in this bill and might want to know how they can participate. I wasn't sure how it might work for college students. So just to
That's a great question.
about.
Yeah. That seems like something worth addressing. Yeah.
You don't take more testimony on it, 'cause I got a couple of questions, but they're mostly things like, 1,200 watts. And, the gauge of the wire, some of the newer houses, the last housing boom we had, they went to 14 gauge wire. Is that gonna handle for 1,200 watts? Is there a device, is there something in the inverter that's gonna limit that? And what about the insurance companies? I mean, if it's your own personal home, is that are they gonna be concerned about?
All good questions, and I think that the people that we're gonna hear from, I think will be. Hopefully well suited to answer the questions. Yes, go ahead.
A lot of electrical questions, but I'm not gonna torture you. I do have one question, I think that's right up your alley. Does this bill in any way control or restrict how many of these up to 1,200 watt solar generators a person can have?
Oh, yeah.
It is not.
Does not, okay.
So this was something that we talked about. To some degree, and that was in part the intent around that there was a limit for how much you could backfeed into the grid. Does that make sense? Like, let's say you had two 600 watt systems, that you could have two of those, and that just ultimately don't be backfeeding more than 1,200
There's no more
watts.
potential for no more than 1,200 to grow.
That, again, that was the intent, because we're not trying to skirt, like, if you should get an interconnection agreement, maybe you should do that.
Yeah.
But I was talking with somebody else after this bill was already submitted, that said, well, so by putting this limitation of 1,200 watts in the definition, then you're just defining what it is. And that maybe that limitation of 1,200 watt backfeed actually needs to be outside of the definition of what.
Yeah.
What is it? Maybe it belongs in both places, because we're trying to talk about, like, these are small systems. And
But even 1,200 watts, I mean, you're talking 5 panels, and it's not like a red box, I mean, it's a pretty.
It's bigger than a red box.
It's bigger. It's, I mean, you're probably talking about five panels, that's the size of these things, so it'll be, to get your 1,200 watts.
yeah, so. To be continued on that, because I think it's an important question.
They like check this with Utah, see if they have any lessons learned or any questions we have, but.
Well, I think we are gonna be taught, yes.
I think you will hear from from the applicants. One thing is, I'm not sure that the UL certification has been issued.
So,
So even though they
Okay.
passed, even though Utah passed this, they do also have the requirement that the underwriters laboratory have certified it, and I don't think that has happened yet. So I don't know how much of a rollout it actually has.
So it's approved, it's not approved this.
I don't think so yet.
There's-
We'll hear
And there's-
more about that.
right, there's more to be said about that, and we're gonna hear from Cora Stryker from Bright Saver soon, who may be able to speak more to that, but you're absolutely right. So, so to be continued. Thank you so much. Okay, and we still have half an hour. Then I don't know how long Ms. Stryker is gonna go, so don't know if we'll get to you today. I'm sure you're hard working.
I'm around.
Okay, all right, but if we're ready,
So who's sharing the slides, not you or?
I don't have, sorry, Ben, I really well for the record, I don't record slides. I was only putting on,
Slides either.
I think in Cora share her slides.
Not
I
yet.
can share. Yes, I have permission to share. I'm happy to send them.
that would be
Yeah,
fabulous if
That'd
you
be
could do
great.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Should I send them now or after?
If it's fast, if you can send them now, and our committee assistant Jude is fabulously.
No, don't say that.
Oh, okay. All right, whenever you get to them, it's just, but do send them to us eventually.
Let me see. This link should be open. Let me make sure about that. So hi everyone. Should I step in? I don't know.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Before we go, if we could just do a quick round of introductions for those of us who are in the room. Ruth is, Senator Hardy has just stepped out of the room, she'll be right back.
Terry Williams, Rutland District.
Ann Watson, Washington District.
Senate Bogart from the Bennington Senate District.
Scott Beck, Caledonia Senate District.
Great, and go ahead.
Hi everyone. Is it me? Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm having trouble here. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Cora Stryker. I'm co-founder of Bright Saver. We're the only nonprofit that is dedicated to making plug-in solar ubiquitous in the United States. And actually, Senator Watson and I and my co-founder Kevin, we talked. What was it in the spring? And I just have to say, to your senator's credit, I mean, Senator Watson just immediately understood the import of something so simple that can transform many people's lives. I thank you for everyone mentioning at the top the stakes here, because we are talking about renters finally having access to solar. Students, these things are portable, so you can literally hang it outside your college dorm window and take it with you. So Ben and I were talking. I have a short presentation just on what this thing is, if that would be helpful. And also, I would be happy to comment on UL because they have released their outline of investigation for the new certification. It's 3,700, and that's a certification for the system end to end. So would it be helpful for me to do sort of a brief what this is, what the potential is, presentation? That's what I just shared in the chat, or would that, or is
Great.
everybody?
Yes, and if
Yes,
you could do just a little bit of background about who Bright Saver is, what.
And
We're a pretty new nonprofit. We started exactly a year ago, January 5th of 2025. And we've really started with this vision. We saw what was happening in Germany, how renters, folks in their equivalent of HOAs were driving this movement to get these small solar panels on their property, usually often their balconies, you know, those beautiful European buildings with 10 stories of balcony apartments. And we thought to ourselves, wait, why isn't this happening here? And it's been a journey as we have begun to answer that question. And we've come really far in the last year. And there's many state champions. I mean, Senator Watson, you were, I think, the second legislator to say, yes, let's do this. But we have quite a few, almost 20, 19 at last count, bills that are going to be introduced or have already been introduced across states. So that's pretty extraordinary. We're almost at half of the United States of America is thinking about doing this. And we're super excited, and we're here to sort of answer technical questions. That's what we do. And should I just go in? Is that
And if you share your screen for the presentation.
Absolutely. Let me do that. Where am I? Here we go. Here, this should be it.
Great.
All right, do we see this? And I'm kind of going backwards here, but actually maybe that makes sense. So, so this is from our white paper. This is what we project will happen once a critical mass of states passes enabling legislation, such as has been proposed in Vermont. And you'll just see what we're really talking about is a dramatic price reduction in the cost of these systems to the consumer. So currently, these systems that are available in all 50 states are around $3 a watt. That's roughly comparable to rooftop nationwide. But you'll see pretty quickly, as soon as enabling legislation like Utah is passed, we cut that in half. Approximately, and it can be self-installed. You don't need an electrician. And then quickly, within a year or two of enabling legislation being passed in a handful of states, we estimate around 5. We might actually get there this year. I don't want to jinx it, but we might. The price will drop even further to component levels, and this is because the actual equipment is dirt cheap. What's really expensive in this country are what we call soft costs. Many of you are familiar with this: the cost of labor, installation, permitting, et cetera. And I know in Vermont you have a fast track, so I would suspect that is a bit lower than it is in Vermont, but nationwide it's 40 to 65% of the cost of rooftop solar. And I do want to say at the top, we really love rooftop solar. We are not here to denigrate rooftop solar. We're here to provide another option for people who just can't install rooftop solar for a number of reasons. So this is what they are. This is me on my balcony. These are small systems. They can be put just about anywhere on a balcony, in a patio, and they're accessible to an entirely different group of people. As Senator Watson talked about, they feed power directly into your home's wiring. So they're very simple systems. We have panel, we have inverter, plug it into a standard outlet, and anything you're running on your electricity will run off of this electricity that's generated by the panels first. They can be coupled with a battery. I'll get to that in a second. And they are for traditionally grid-connected homes, meaning these are not off-grid systems. These off-grid systems like this do exist, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about folks who live in typical suburban, urban, rural areas and are connected to the grid. This is what they look like. This is actually, so my nonprofit Bright Saver, we have piloted these in California as well as a number of other states, at least for the left-hand one, the balcony setup. So these are very simple. They can be put in many different places. They can be oriented toward the sun. You'll see that on the backyard setup. You also can do a vertical orientation. So they're very versatile, they're accessible, and we really see them as an on-ramp to other solar adoption. These are low wattage. So we're really climate people. We know you are too. We don't see this as the solution to the climate change problem. We see this as an on-ramp. We see this as a way to empower people who have been shut out of adoption of rooftop solar across the board. And I will say that, when we started this thing, we were expecting a little pushback, animosity from the traditional rooftop solar industry. It's been the opposite. I mean, there's really been this welcoming attitude of, oh yeah, like this is an entirely different group of people. We're not competitive. We love rooftop. We love community solar. That has to be part of the puzzle, but we think this does too. So again, we estimate around 70% of residents in the United States cannot get rooftop solar for a number of reasons. Renters, their roofs are bad. I'll get next to this gentleman in the middle, Terry. He is a senior on a fixed income. He wanted rooftop solar, but he has a bad roof. And when you factor in the cost of replacing your roof and then getting rooftop solar, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars that he simply didn't have on a fixed income. So he was really excited about this solution. He was one of our first adopters. On the left, you'll see Tiffany. She's a new mom, very similar, wanted rooftop solar, just couldn't afford it. And then on the right, you'll see Sean. He's a renter. He tried to convince his landlord to get rooftop solar. His landlord said no. So this was an option that he was super excited about to offset, in his case, really high electricity bills from air conditioning in the summer. So what is it? And we've kind of talked about this a little bit. I mean, these are the, I guess, what we call the simple or dumb systems that are in Germany and now Utah. You know, you really there's not too much complexity. We have panel, we have inverter plugging into a standard outlet. You'll see here on the left a battery. That is an option. We also do see models with AC coupled batteries on the right hand side. This is just the DC side. Battery is the more common orientation, at least for now, but that may change. So, and then this is where we get to the backfeeding thing that Senator Watson was talking about. So you use what you're running off of your electricity, your refrigerator, maybe your air conditioning, maybe your heat if you have a heat pump, and then anything left over is fed back to the grid. And that's where that threshold, that 1200 watt threshold, really comes into play, because we certainly don't want to create any kind of grid instability issues. We actually have a report. I think I should send this also as a follow-up, Senator Watson. We have a report from Bill Brooks, who's a renowned expert in the field. He was actually on the committee of the National Electric Code rulemaking body. And he has done an analysis showing that in every region of the United States, including the Northeast, even if we had something astronomical, like 25% of US residents in these regions had one of these at 1200 watts, you'd see no net export to the grid on an hourly basis. Why is that important? That's important because if you do see major swings in output, and if utilities, for instance, don't have great insight into where this solar is coming online on the grid, we could be looking at grid instability issues. That's why the basis of, for instance, why rooftop solar does need an interconnection agreement. You know, utilities need insight into what sort of electricity is coming online through distributed energy resources. This analysis we have shows that these are such de minimis small amounts of electricity that we really don't need to worry about that. And that's important for a couple of reasons. I mean, we want the utilities to be part of this negotiation. They were in Utah when we worked on the legislation there. I know Senator Watson has great relationships with utilities in Vermont. We don't want to come at them with our fists raised saying, you know, like, you have to accept this. We want them to understand that this really isn't a safety issue for the grid, or line workers, by the way. That section in your proposed bill mandating automatic shutoff in some states we specify within 500 milliseconds of disconnection of the grid protects line workers. We don't have islanding. We don't have electricity being sent back to the grid if the grid goes down and line workers are working on it. So again, this is what we're going for. This is what we hope is in Vermont later this year. Currently, this is the setup that is available in all 50 states. And I just want to preface this by saying that this technically violates most PUC recommendations. So even for this system that sends nothing back to the grid, no electricity back to the grid, these are technically required to go through an interconnection agreement, which we believe is patently ridiculous for these tiny systems. So this is how it works. So you'll see on the left, it's exactly the same. The change comes on the right, where we have an extra piece of hardware that that essentially is backfeed prevention. So let's say you go to lunch, you're not using much electricity, but the sun is still shining. You will produce that excess electricity. And let's say you even have a battery and your battery is full. Whatever's left over will be prevented from going back to the grid. What does this do? This essentially makes these systems invisible to the utilities. So people in all 50 states are getting these systems as we speak. And, you know, we see it as a step in the right direction, but it really can't be the full story, because here's the problem. This backfeed prevention hardware, the cost plus the cost of the electrician just about doubles the cost everywhere in the country. So it makes it less accessible. And it also makes it so it can't be self-installed. You have to call in that professional electrician. So, you know, we know there are products that do this. We are a nonprofit. We're not here to sort of denigrate any product, but we really feel that this is not the end of the story to get to that, you know, millions of households having access to this kind of solar. So again, this is why we don't have it. I think we've talked about this. We need to update the interconnection regulations so that these small systems are not bound to the same standard as rooftop systems 5 to 20 times as large. And as Senator Watson alluded to, we have a model. We have Raymond Ward, a Republican in the state of Utah, who we worked with to craft a very simple bill, simpler actually than the draft you have in Vermont, although I think your draft is superior actually in a couple of ways. So what he did is he put together, with our advice, this really simple bill that essentially exempts these systems from traditional interconnection, and also net metering, as is in your bill as well. And what that did is immediately drop the cost of the system by about 50%. And it made it accessible. People literally in Utah order these online, go to their local hardware store, buy the pieces, buy the inverter separately, and then set it up in their backyard. They don't need to have a professional installation at all. And so that's what we're going for. And I'll say, I mean, it's really quite extraordinary. Senator Watson, you were at the very beginning of the wave, but in case you haven't been following this, we have 10 states that have already announced that they are going to do this. So in addition to Vermont, we're looking at New York, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Maryland, Virginia, South Carolina, Maine. I'm actually going to a Maine hearing right after this one, Indiana and Missouri. These are the ones that have already introduced or announced their intention to introduce. I'll tell you, we're kind of the center of what's happening nationally. And I'll tell you, we have at least 8 more legislators that are committed, that are drafting bills as we speak. So again, we think we're going to see close to 20, if not more than 20 of these bills moving in 2026. And another 3 I can think of off the top of my head in 27, since that's the next cycle. So we're super excited about this. You know, Senator Watson, you already mentioned some of the reasons this is exciting. It's energy affordability for people who have no other solar options. Of course, climate, it's clean energy, it's energy independence. It's don't tell me what to do in my backyard. We just think it's simple and powerful. And I just want to close by showing what this will do. So this, as you see, is the historical cost per watt of German balcony solar systems. And this decline really was spurred by legislative action. And I think that's, you know, the power that you all have in your hands, is that and this is the increase in adoption. So you see, as the cost goes down, the adoption increases. By the way, is registered units, and that's at about 1 million. We hear from our counterparts, their estimates that put that much higher, closer to 4 million, if not above. Since some folks don't register their units, they just buy it and plug it in. And, this is from our white paper, which I invite everyone to take a look at. I'm happy to send this group a copy, or you can get it on our website. But, we really are looking at precipitous declines in payback periods, which will drive mass adoption. And one thing we're really excited about is that this doesn't require any public funds, no subsidies. This is entirely consumer driven, because it really lowers the cost for the consumer to the cost of the components. And we think that is key. We think we're at a tipping point with clean energy. We think it is or will be soon better, faster, cheaper. And we just have to get the right regulatory framework in place to permit that. And as I started, I mean, this really is what will happen as soon as we get enough states to open up their markets. We talk to all the major manufacturers. They tell us, hey, we are watching very closely, but they need to see more states besides Utah where they can play. So, so this is the power you all have in your hands. I am happy to talk about UL 3700, which has been released, but maybe I'll pause here first for questions.
That'd be great. I'm sure we have some. Yes, go ahead, Snre Williams.
Thank you for that presentation. Great. Question is, will this work as a standalone system if you're off the grid?
Yes, it does. Now, those exist. Those have been around for a long time. So if you want to go camping and get one of these, you can. Or if you live off the grid, you can get one of these. We're talking, though, about specifically grid-tied systems, meaning households that need to draw some from the grid. In the best case scenario, these systems offset. Well, it's interesting. 6 months ago, I would have said 15 to 20%. We actually have some analysis coming out showing it's quite a bit higher than that, in the 20s and in some cases the 30s percent of electricity consumption in a household. So in no circumstance will this cover your entire electricity load. So they really can't be off grid in this form.
Well, I'm just thinking about if you got an outbuilding like a horse shed or place where you got animals and you need to keep the water supply from freezing. Is this looking at it like a standard battery storage system?
Yes, they can be coupled with batteries. Now, they're sort of the simple system I showed, and some of these systems come with batteries. All of them, though, you can buy a battery and attach it. Yeah, I mean, that resilience you're talking about is very much why we think these are crucial. We think once folks have these in large enough numbers, there will be this resilience when coupled with a battery. And yeah, I mean, it's a health issue for a lot of folks, the medically vulnerable. And yeah, we'll keep that stuff running within the household. So don't forget, we have that automatic shutoff feature for safety for line workers. So if the grid fully goes down, you do need to disconnect from the grid, but we already have models where you can continue to use that solar energy within the household, like you're talking about.
Thank you.
Great. Other questions? Some of my own. So I love that you've got the per kilowatt or per watt price projections out there, which of course affects the potential payback for purchasing one of these. And so right now, the payback period would be a little different than perhaps after we would pass some kind of enabling legislation. So just wondering what your estimated payback period would be for one of these devices now, and then sort of projected out into the future.
Yeah, I have that. I have all the projections state by state. Can I send that as a follow-up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's in the hundreds, and overall, I would say 4 to 5 years payback is what we're looking at. Generally, now this actually is related to UL 3700 because that bends the timeline a little bit. And I'm happy to talk about that. I think actually we should, while there's still an opportunity to amend this law, but maybe we're not ready for that.
Oh, no, if you have suggestions are very much welcome. So if you have any yeah, red line version that you want to send us, that would be very helpful. And I'm wondering if you can just, because UL is Underwriters Laboratories, can you, I apologize, I don't know what UL 3700 is. Is
Yeah,
that,
it's brand new. So let me switch over. Can you see this now?
yes,
You can see this now. Okay. So this is brand new. It came out when most of us were planning for some time off. And it really ultimately it doesn't change the vision, but in the short term, it changes, I guess, the tactics that we need to have to make this a ubiquitous, widely available technology. And you know, I think that the bottom line is that what UL 3700 does, the good side of what it does, is it really has turned over every stone in terms of safety, household level safety and line worker safety. And we are quite close with a number of folks who have been part of these rulemaking bodies, and they tell us this is sort of a starting place. And UL has been very conservative in their starting place. And in fact, as of today, if there was a UL 3700 certified plug-in solar system, which there isn't, we believe from our conversations with manufacturers that will come out by the end of the year, if not the middle of the year. It must be installed by a professional if it is UL 3700 compliant. Now, interestingly, I have read drafts of bills that are going to be introduced this year that specifically call out UL 1741 as the safety standard. Why is that important? It's important because we already have UL 1741 standards. We already have products that meet that standard. Why isn't that enough? Some people think it is. What we need to bear in mind is that UL 1741 is not a certification for the system end to end. It's only for the inverter. So, so there is an argument to be made, and I expect that to come in the hearing I'll appear at later this week that has this language that when we're talking about coupling different pieces, we do have different safety concerns. And that's really what UL was thinking about when they put together their guidance for 3700. And what I'm sharing now is a bit of a technical document. Our next step, we're leading a national coalition of a number of allies, but Solar United Neighbors. We're going to come up with a FAQ for UL 3700 pretty soon, hopefully by the end of this week. But this is the technical document. And what we recommend is an addendum to law to preserve self-installation under a threshold of 391 watts. Now, why that number? That number, because Europe, particularly Germany, has a decade of experience installing 800-watt systems. However, as you know, Europe is on a different voltage system. They're on 230 volts, we're on 120. That's why you need an adapter when you go to Berlin. So we need to adjust that threshold to have the same current flow through the system. Current is what determines heat. So what we need is we need thermal parity between those 800-watt systems with quite a bit of with a very pristine safety record over 10 years with our system here. We still think the 1200-watt threshold is correct because what it does is any system above 391 watts can be installed by a professional electrician without having to go through the interconnection rigmarole. For tiny systems under 391 watts, we recommend the following language should be added to bills. It is essentially what it says is that if you have a tiny system under 391 watts, you're exempt from any certification that requires you to make a permanent alteration to the electrical system of the house. Why is that important? That's important because currently UL 3700 says you do need to alter the electrical system to essentially install non-standard outlets. I'm covering a lot of ground. This should be in my presentation, but this is so new, it's not yet. We see it as really important that we still do have a self-install impermanent portable option for the very folks we mentioned at the top, students, lower income, folks who just don't have the resources to call in a professional electrician. And as I mentioned, this will double the cost essentially for systems greater than 391 watts. That's a real bummer. We know that's going to change over time. And that's one of the reasons it's really important for states to adopt this amendment exempting systems lower than 391 watts, because we start to establish a safety record. This is what Germany did. If we can establish a safety record at 391 watts and below, UL will respond, National Electrical Code will respond, and this will really speed them along toward that safe self-installation vision that we all have, that is in Europe right now, that we know will transform the lives of many Vermonters.
Yes, go ahead, Senator. Oh, do you have a question?
Well, I was just confused, because when I thought we were talking about 1200 watts, now it's 391, what happens in that space in between 391 and 1200?
In that space in between, under UL 3700, you need a professional electrician. So there are sort of two groups, right? If Vermont adopts this amendment, there is the self-installation group under 391 watts. Between 391 and 1200, for larger systems, you would need to call in a professional electrician to do some electrical work at your house. Now, it's not as extensive as it would be for rooftop solar, for instance. It's a pretty minor alteration, but it does increase the cost and it does increase the barrier to entry. But it is necessary as a first step to ensure absolute safety. And that's what UL was thinking about in their new guidance. Did that answer?
Yes, I think so. And just as a follow-up to that, I mean, what I read, the UL white paper on this, what I heard was that the industry is going to respond, and so that may be sort of where we're at right now.
Right.
But can you speak at all to that, about how the industry is responding to these directives from UL?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the necessary first step. If we don't make this permissible in enough states, they can't even start that research and development phase. They are interested. They know this is happening. They are, as we speak, working on products that are UL 3700 compliant. But yes, they know, and we know from working with folks who have been through this a few times. As Bill Brooks said, he's been in this rodeo more than once. It's going to change as time goes on. They're going to start really conservatively, and as we establish that safety record, they're gonna change their standards as time goes on. But we can't pass go until we get this ball rolling in enough states to really start at zero. We're essentially starting at zero. I mean, I mentioned that system that's available in all 50 states. Very few people actually have it. So we need to get that safety data. We need to demonstrate that people really want this, and we know they do.
And when you say UL 37 compliant, you mean for self-installation, like they're working towards that?
Currently, we are involved in a proposal to National Electric Code that does have the 391 watt exemption. Currently, UL 3700 does not have that have
Okay.
that exemption. And I do just want to say, and this is in this document that I think I should send out. Germany just released its norm, which is like 2 months ago. That's equivalent to our UL standard. It
Mhm.
meaning for all this time, for 10 years, they've had nothing from a standard body like UL. What they've had is legislation that stands as a bridge and establishes safety standards. So we think we should follow a similar pattern.
Well, thank you. So we're almost out of time, but last question to Senator
Good
Williams.
question. These are just standard solar panels. They're
Yes.
not anything that you buy it over the counter.
That's right. The
Not
inverter is what's special.
I'm concerned about, the number of panels that we have to recycle, but you can't recycle them, so.
Yeah, well, I don't know about Vermont. Here in California, there is a pretty robust recycling industry. So I can't speak to that in where you are. Are you saying that they aren't recyclable?
Well, and we'll probably have more testimony on that, so.
I just wonder if there's something special.
No, nothing special. These are standard solar panels. What's special is the inverter that plugs directly into the wall.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Super. Well, thank you so much, Cora. We're so grateful to have you join us today. So with that, we are